Hello, fellas and ladies. Boy, 2024 was an odd, great one for cinema, wasn't it? Anora, The Brutalist, Dune 2, Nosferatu, Nickel Boys, The Substance, Better Man, Furiosa, Sing Sing, I Saw the TV Glow. It was so good we can just pretend Deadpool and Wolverine didn't happen. And if you're a horny Italian named Luca Guadagnino, you definitely had a great year. Last year, Luca was possibly at the height of his fame, releasing two incredible films called Challengers and Queer. We're talking about a filmmaker who continues to experiment and flip around his style, dependent on the film, and still writing the success of Call Me By Your Name. He was able to do so with his two films last year. Now he releases After the Hunt, clearly on a hot streak, feeling like he can do no wrong. Ah, man. After the Hunt follows a Yale philosophy professor, played by Julia Roberts, and how she spirals in the wake of a sexual assault allegation from a star student, played by Io Edeberry, against a fellow professor and a close friend, played by Andrew Garfield. Yeah. This is not it. This is such an interesting film. I will say that in a negative and a positive light. There is something of intrigue to find in this weird mess of a film. I don't really know where to begin here because I don't know if I start at the positive or a negative, because there's really one prevailing issue permeating this movie, and it's the writing. I don't even think the direction is that good, although I definitely think it might be, like, from a directorial standpoint, his weakest. I think Luca Guadagnino still continues to experiment and do these interesting things. Sometimes the movie shifts POVs, and the movie does have an interesting thing where it really closes up on the hands, during tense conversations. We'll just focus in on the hands and what it does. Sometimes it'll be crazy like this, but then there's odd choices with the DP where I don't know, for some reason the heads are cut off. Why would they do that? Otherwise, I think tonally it was okay. I don't think there's such an interesting vision going on where something like Queer was so lush and owning meandering of it all. This movie just kind of didn't have that. I don't think this movie has a tone that picks up anything. I will say the performances across the board are all excellent. Julia Roberts is pretty amazing. I think the writing for her character is a little rushed. It's interesting, but we do kind of see the way she presents herself. Julia Roberts does an excellent job of showing this despicable character kind of become less I guess ashamed of her shittiness, and she does this in this weird way that really compounds her narcissism. Io Edeberry is also very good. I definitely have some thoughts on the writing of her character that I'll get into, but she definitely works. There's something a little off about her performance, but I think that's not so much on her. I think she does work overall. She does a good job. Michael Stuhlbarg's definitely a standout. I like the movie he's in more than the movie we got, but I don't mean that in a way that Michael Stuhlbarg doesn't fit in with these characters. He does. I mean, the writing. Yeah, he's very good. He's very good at using his body, putting his body into the performance, which brings me to Andrew Garfield, who I think gives one of the best performances of his career. He's just such an obviously unpredictable sleazeball, such a slimy character, and Garfield plays it with such authenticity. He's so engaging to watch. I can't obviously his character's a bit of a his character's clearly a bit of a scumbag, and I kind of see why he's not in the movie a lot. But a part of me was kind of hey, he's so good. I wish he could do a little more. But man, this movie it's just really muddying the waters constantly. I think the movie wants to tackle this Me Too drama from a bit of a both sides angle. I don't think the movie never really openly says whether or not the assault happened. I think it definitely has a pretty strong implication towards the end, but there's never a moment where it's this is the answer. And I kind of see that's not the point. The point of the movie isn't exactly, or at least the movie isn't designed to be about whether or not it happened. It's more about watching the dynamics of the characters. But I don't know, the movie kind of seems to forget that that's the case sometimes. That's just kind of hovering over all of them, is this mystery that didn't have to be a mystery. I think it kind of would have been a little more compelling if we knew what happened. The movie also keeps on switching sides and which side it empathizes with. I think the main empathy goes towards Io Edeberry's character. However, the movie just doesn't know how to criticize Gen Z. The movie has a very interesting criticism of Gen X and how, and this pre-COVID era, frustration in Gen X that kind of burst, and the way that they have these absurd opinions. There's a thing that Garfield has, like, an opinion on Michael Stuhlbarg's character, how he's, like, probably unhappy in his lack of masculinity, how Gen X holds everything in and then besmirches Gen Z for letting it all out. I like the idea that the type of, like, sensitivity and need for coddling that Gen X mocks Gen Z for is really, like, what they actually are. Just they're less open about it. That said, I think that the criticism of Gen Z, like, kind of comes down to they're annoying. I think the movie wants to kind of say, oh, but they're, like, performative and they're very, like, you know, attention seeking, which I don't think is an inherently incorrect sentiment on Gen Z. I just think in this context, I think it's a little like mismatched. It's very clear that the movie holds Garfield's character and eventually Julia Roberts' character in contempt. But the perspective on Iowa DeBerry's character just really confused me. I really struggled to find why this movie had a gripe with her, which it clearly did, and I wasn't sure what it was. Why did we need to make this character, like, actually entitled or obnoxious or even annoying? I don't really know what the movie's goal was in doing that in this context of a sexual assault allegation. The movie feels overwritten in that regard. Like, a lot of the way that these people talk to each other, I guess, could be intentionally, like, they're trying to outsmart each other. But it just kind of feels like whenever there's, like, a showdown between, like, Julia Roberts and Iowa DeBerry, I really struggle to see, like, what Julia Roberts is, like, perspective is over Iowa DeBerry. There's, like, a line that Iowa DeBerry has, like, where she's like, there's no reward in death for being tortured through life. And I think the movie wanted us to be like, can you fucking believe this woman? I was like, why? Like, she's right. Take Eddington, for example. The movie has very justifiable, like, criticism of Gen Z and kind of this misguided but well-meaning thing that they do through activism. I think Eddington did that in a very interesting light. Actually had an angle on them, and it both sided that with Gen X's conspiracy mind rabbit hole with an actual, like, intrigue and acknowledge that one side is clearly worse. Here it just really wants to have it both ways, but I feel like there actually is content and justifiable one for, like, Gen X's perspective in this movie, I should say. But it wants to have content for, like, Gen Z, but doesn't know how to do it. The movie very proudly proclaims it wants to, like, make you uncomfortable, and in that, it kind of fucks it up. It kind of just left me going, why did that movie do the things it did? I can admire a movie that makes a dialogue presentable. Like, that's always, like, that's what movies are. They're supposed to make you want to, like, actually talk about it. But when I have a discussion about this movie, I just think, well, what exactly is the issue with the performative nature of Gen Z in this context? Like, is the movie implying that Iowa DeBerry's character is all, like, in it for attention? I don't know. There's a thing where with her character being with a non-binary person, and I think the movie implies one thing through another character, but never through Iowa DeBerry's character. Maybe there's a part of me that's thinking, am I giving this movie more credit than it's, like, deserved, or is it just actually confused? Does it want to have its cake and eat it too? I think it does, because I think the whole Gen X holding everything in thing through Julia Roberts and mostly Michael Stuhlbarg's character is very interesting, but that's not the center of the movie. And while it does kind of come a little more clear towards the end, I think it's a little too late. I think it just has not much to say, despite saying is, like, constantly talking. Just from a technical standpoint, like, I think totally wrong. I talked about Luca's direction. It was good. The score from Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross is actually pretty bad. They have, like, this one sound that they use. They kind of, I don't want to say, they don't vocal brittle in it, but a lot of, like, the score in this movie felt out of place. It also felt way longer than it was supposed to be. Like, I felt the movie's runtime. It's, like, nearly 2.5 hours, and I definitely was like, this has 9 endings. I was having moments like, this should end here, and then it didn't. And then when it did end, I was like, okay. After the Hunt is an uncharacteristically toothless endeavor from Luca Guadagnino, and despite excellent performances, the writing is so muddled in its depiction of, like, culture shock and, like, a public opinion that whatever intrigue the film offers seems drowned out by wanting to both sides it. So with that in mind, sadly, I'll have to give After the Hunt 4 Lucas out of 10. Yeah, not great, not good. Go see it if you want to. It is interesting. Let's grab a chair. Ciao, ciao.